Hello, this is The Flower of Freedom by Deborah J. Reeves. All rights to the book and to my presentation of it are reserved. We're back into a little more civilized territory. This is Chapter 74, Hospital Reception. Please take your seat. This won't be as harrowing this time, except that Bertie, our hero, has been injured and he has some recovering to do at the hospital. Here we go, Chapter 74, Hospital Reception. Helmut's car followed the ambulance all the way to the finest hospital in Zurich. The ambulance drivers took Bertie in through the entrance for ambulances, and his cheering section had to go in through the main emergency entrance, which was subtly lit and quiet. They went to the front desk, and Dietrich did the talking as his father parked the car. He told the lady at the desk that they were there to see a young man who had been injured in a hockey accident. She was robotic. She wanted to know who would pay. Dietrich turned to Aki and shamefacedly translated what she said. Aki declared, "I will pay," and Aki made a gesture as though he was scribbling on a paper to make her understand. She produced a raft of forms. When Helmut Boss came through the door, things changed. Her attitude improved dramatically. "Herr Bosk," she said, as though she was suddenly an ingenue. He ignored her and looked at the papers that she had tried to make a key sign. "This is disgraceful. Where's the boy?" She pressed a button on her desk, and a moment later the trauma doctor came out to meet them. Dietrich did an admirable job of translating that night. The doctor spoke German and English. Marie spoke English and French. Aki spoke French and some rusty German. Dietrich's translations were the best of all worlds that night. The doctor reported that Bertie was still unconscious, but that might be a mercy, because while he was still out, the doctors on her team had set his nose back into position, set a broken left wrist, and set 2 fingers on his right hand into a single splint for stability. You understand that we look for silver linings. The biggest issue is that he went face forward into the boards. That caused a fracture around his eye socket of his right eye. His eye is swollen shut for the time being, she told them. That, the doctor continued, will help protect the eye itself for now. Bertie's nose had been reset, and the fact that it had snapped probably saved his life. His nose broke, and that reduced the impact to his neck. We believe that the coma is temporary, but comas are always quite serious, she concluded, and she added something Bertie would not have wanted to hear. No matter what, though, his hockey days are over. Shortly after the doctor made that pronouncement, the coach from Dietrich's team rushed into the hospital carrying Bertie's equipment bag. 3 other team members were with him. "How is he?" they wanted to know, and Dietrich responded, "Not good." Not long after that, the referee from the game entered the waiting room. "Any news?" he asked, and the coach shook his head. The ref sat next to the coach. They all sat together in the waiting room, hoping and praying that Bertie would emerge from the coma. That turned out to be a good thing, too, because at about midnight, 2 police officers arrived in a cruiser. They wanted to speak to everyone there. They said that people from the other team told them about an accident on the ice during the game that evening. They believe that one of you retaliated against one of their players and their coach, the officer said. He had asked everyone if they had listened to the local news. "We were a little busy," said the ref. The police then told them that a player and an opposing coach had been murdered behind the arena that night. "What?" said the ref, standing in horror. Did you say murdered? That doesn't happen in Zurich. Well, it did tonight, retorted the officer in charge. The other police officer nodded, and he scanned the assembled faces. He went up to the woman at the desk. She told him that she always tracked the time when people came through the door. I don't always have names, you see, so I just write down the times and a descriptor or a salient feature. The police officer took out his notebook and he jotted down the times when each person had arrived in the waiting room. Then he asked her if she knew any of the people before tonight. She said that of course she knew Herr Bosk from his charitable work, but she had never seen the others before. The police officer said, "Is that the Herr Bosk?" The lady nodded. He went and pulled the other officer aside. Everyone's accounted for. Most of them have been here since the accident, and they arrived with the ambulance. The coach and the team members arrived about 10 minutes later, altogether, and the ref came about 5 minutes after that. The second officer asked if he could speak to the attending physician. The receptionist phoned into emergency, and she was told to send the police officers in. When they spoke to the attending doctor, they showed her a sketch of a man seen loitering in the area where the murders had occurred. The father of the murdered boy had seen a man, and he had given the police artist his information. The physician took one look at the sketch and she said, "You're kidding, right?" Annoyed, the police officer said, "Do I look like I want you to waste my time? I have 2 murders to solve. Have you seen this guy or not?" "Come with me," she said. And the weary doctor took the police officers to the bed in the emergency area, and she pulled back the curtain. "Is that the guy you're looking for?" The cops looked at the battered boy, and they looked at the picture. If you make allowances for the eye, it looks like the same person to me, but this kid has been here since before the murder. There are his skates that he was still wearing when the ambulance drivers lifted him off the ice and left him here for us to put back together. He hasn't even regained consciousness. I've been told that the kid who got murdered did this to this young man. And before you start throwing accusations around, all those people have been here in agony this whole time. This kid was helping his uncle's friend by playing a game of hockey here in Zurich. He's here from Canada, and he was supposed to be skiing near Interlaken. The police officers thanked the doctor, and they went back to Marie. They asked her if she had a picture of her father, and Dietrich translated. Marie dug into her handbag and then her wallet, and she came out with a picture of the family together. Marie and her mother were standing next to Papa, while Bertie towered over them all. The officers focused on Oscar. "Is this your father?" they asked Marie, and Dietrich translated once more. Marie smiled and nodded. Oscar looked nothing like Bertie. He was well-muscled and strong, but he was squat and brunette, and they reminded one another he was in Canada. They had seen enough. They both nodded to the people in the waiting room, and as they left, they drove away. That's the end of chapter 74. The next chapter is called 75, and it's called News. Bertie becomes a popular patient in the hospital. Things are a little more optimistic now. We look forward to seeing you again. Your friend Deborah.